To establish a common denominator, let's see what factoring we may be able to do. Doesn't look like a lot in this particular one. For this one, we could pull out a 3. We're left with x squared minus 2. And that's about it for factoring. So we have to establish a common denominator based on that. If it had a 9 in it, that would look after the 3's as well. It needs an x in it, and it needs an x squared minus 2. Okay, so let's lay it out with common denominators then. We have the 9x already, so that means we do need to multiply the bottom by x squared minus 2 in order to get that common denominator. And of course, whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. And we'll show brackets to remind ourselves that's the whole thing being multiplied. Okay, and the next one, we end up with 3 times x squared minus 2. Now, to get to our common denominator, that is the 9x, so we're going to have to multiply by a 3 and an x, and that will get us to where we need to be. So we'll have 12 times 3x. All right, and so for the last one, 7x over 3x. And so for this one, we need to multiply by the x squared minus 2. And in order to get to that 9, we're also going to have to multiply by 3. So whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So we'll make a note of that. Okay, so now we're at the point where we have that common denominator, 9x, x squared minus 2. And let's go through the top. So for this first one, we end up with x times x squared is x to the 3. X times minus 2 is minus 2x. And then 7 times x squared is plus 7x squared. And 7 times minus 2 is minus 14. All right, 12 times 3 is 36, and it's a negative because it was subtracting there, 36x. And then over here, we can multiply this. 3 times 7 is 21x, and then multiply that into each of these. So we'd have plus 21x to the 3, a little bit further. And 21x times minus 2 is minus 42x. All right, so quite a bit on top there. Let's see, reduce that down a little bit. Okay, as far as x cubes, we have an x cube and a 21x cubed, so 22x to the 3. All right, x squareds. We only see one x squared, so 7x squared. And then x's, we have minus 2 minus 36 makes minus 38. And then minus 42, so the 2 would bring us up to 40, and then another 40 is 80. So minus 80x. And then we're just left with 14 out at the end. And our common denominator, still x squared minus 2, and nothing more we can do there. We'll call that a wrap. That's our final answer.